Humble request to all the brothers to come forward. Inshallah, it'll be beneficial for all of us. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nu'minu bihi wa natawakkalu alayh. Wa na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyati a'malina. Man yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa man yudlilhu fala hadiya lahu. Wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa Allah wahdahu la sharika lahu. ونشهد أن سيدنا وحبيبنا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. قال الله عز وجل ويسألونك عن ذي القرنين قل سأتلو عليكم منه ذكرا إلى آخر الآية. Respected honorable brothers, respected listeners, first and foremost we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who made it possible for us to be part and parcel of this program, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us an opportunity to pray Salat al-Maghrib with Jama'at. We had started 4 weeks ago, or approximately 5 weeks ago, and our topic of discussion was in respect to Surah Al Kahf, the importance of Surah Al Kahf. The main message was how important Surah Al Kahf is in our life, and what is the message that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us in Surah Al Kahf. So we covered the major stories. There were not just stories, but there is tremendous lessons behind it, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran. وَكُلًّا نَقُصُّ عَلَيْكَ مِنْ أَنْبَاءِ الرُّسُلِ مَا نُثَبِّتُ بِهِ فُؤَادَكَ وَجَاءَكَ فِي هَذِهِ الْحَقُّ وَمَوْعِظَةٌ وَذِكْرَى لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it very clear that anything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, any stories that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, it's not just a story for me and you to listen. That is why even the stories are not even full. Only the important message in the story is conveyed. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it clear, وَكُلًّا نَقُصُّ. Every bit of story that we mention, every piece of story that we mention, مَا نُثَبِّتُ بِهِ فُؤَادَكَ. It is so that we can establish, we can make your hearts firm and solid with the oneness of Allah and in the iman of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that obviously we can be inspired by listening to the stories. And then further Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in these stories there is maw'idha, there is admonishment for us, there is lesson for us, and there is truth in us, and obviously for the people that take lesson from it. So in Surah Al Kahf, when we started the surah, we talked about that there are generally 4 trials and tribulations that come upon a person. One is on the iman, and especially the environment when it's completely against iman, believing oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially by the tyrant rulers. So in that circumstances, when you are faced with that circumstance where the environment is totally against what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you to do and the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how are you firm? How do you establish yourself? How do you keep yourself steadfast? For that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us a story of what? Ashabul Kahf, the people of the cave, the youngsters who took refuge in the cave. And we learned a lot from that story. And then after that, another fitna that comes, and it's a challenge for us, and it's a test for us, and it's a trial for us, and that is because of what? Wealth. And we spoke about that in detail, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about in the same surah. وَضْرِبْ لَهُمْ مَثَلَ رَجُلَيْنِ جَعَلْنَا لِأَحَدِهِمَا جَنَّتَيْنِ مِنْ أَعْنَابٍ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about that. When a person when he's in affluence, when he has wealth, that is the time he starts transgressing, as we had talked about that in the past. And the third one was relation to what? Knowledge. Many are times when you have knowledge, and we know, I know something, and obviously the person who knows something, and if he has some designation, regardless of whether he has designation in medicine, accounting, whatever it may be, but still he has to add his 2 cents to something else. And this is very clear. We find that a person who has knowledge, he has the arrogance, pride in him. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about that, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addresses that in great details. Great. And then after that, one of the fitna one of the tests and fitna that comes upon us is because of what? Power. When you have power. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives you power, and this is a very big fitna, that especially if you can't control yourself, when you have the power, and obviously people, sometimes you don't have anything. When you have that power, people are hungry for power. People are actually hungry for chair. Right? And when you have that power, you want to control. You cannot come down. And we find many, many leaders like that in the world. When they are up there, they just can't come down. It's the power. They dictate, they rule, they make the decisions, they call the shots. So we find many people like that. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking about that with a beautiful story of Dhul Qarnain, one of the friend of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and obviously we will discuss whether he is a prophet or not, Dhul Qarnain. So this story is more related to when you are given that power, how do you use your power and how do you not misuse your power? We learn from the story here as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions and addresses. Now so obviously these were the 4 tests that we talked about. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنْ ذِي الْقَرْنَيْنِ. O Prophet of Allah, they are asking you regarding Dhul Qarnain. Now we had talked about this before, that the Jews from Medina, they had told the Meccans to ask Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who claims to be the prophet, ask him if he is a true prophet, then pose 3 questions. What were the 3 questions? The first question was related to what? What's that? Ashabul Kahf. The Ruh. وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ. And the third question was actually the Ruh, وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks in Banu Israel, and Dhul Qarnain, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about in here. Yes, so three stories they were asking about. One was Ashabul Kahf, who were they, what were they about, and the details about that. And the second question was in relation to Ruh, the soul. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not talk about that in detail. All Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says is, قُلِ الرُّوحُ مِنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّي, this is the matter of my Lord, and leave it to that point. You will not be able to understand. So we cannot go into the depth of Ruh. And the third thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the question that was asked to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was in relation to what? Dhul Qarnain. Who was Dhul Qarnain? Now we will talk about it, and why is it important to Jewish community? Inshallah, we will be talking about that. So these were the 3 questions that were posed to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam answered all these 3 questions in great detail. 2 of them are answered in Surah Kahf, and 1 was answered in Surah Bani Israel. Now before we start the story of Surah Dhul Qarnain, one thing we need to understand is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave this world 4 great rulers. 2 were Muslims and 2 were not Muslims. 2 were believers and 2 were not believers. So there are 4 individuals who ruled the world. 2 were Muslims, believers, and 2 were not believers. The two that were not believers, one is Bukhtun Nasr, and the other one was Namrud. These are the 2 that were not believers. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them great kingdom. Bukhtun Nasr, we will talk about him a little bit, and Namrud. And which prophet was challenging Namrud? Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam. Right? And then 2 that were believers, who were given a great kingdom and they ruled the world, the first one was Sulaiman alayhi salatu wassalam. And the second one was Dhul Qarnain. So these are the 4 people we find in some narration that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them great powers to rule the world. 2 were believers and 2 were not believers. Now obviously the first question is, وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنْ ذِي الْقَرْنَيْنِ. They are asking you, O Prophet of Allah, regarding Dhul Qarnain. Who is Dhul Qarnain? So this is the first question that comes. Now before speaking about Dhul Qarnain, let's talk about the word itself, Dhul Qarnain. Dhul Qarnain, what does it mean? If you understand the Arabic language, Qarn means horns. So Dhul Qarnain means 2 horns. So having 2 horns. Now what does this mean? How does it fit into the whole context here? So some said that he had 2 curly locks of hair, therefore he was called Dhul Qarnain. So one opinion is what? Because he had 2 locks of curly hair, that is why he's called Dhul Qarnain. Some others said that he ruled countries of the east and west, therefore he was named Dhul Qarnain. So he ruled the east and the west, and that is what we learn from Quran too. That is why he was called Dhul Qarnain. The third opinion is, there was someone who was also said that, someone also said that he had marks on both sides of his head. So he had marks of wound on both sides of the head, and that is why he was called Dhul Qarnain. So there's different reasons given why he was called Dhul Qarnain. Obviously, the most famous one is that Dhul Qarnain refers to, it's a metaphor, it refers to, ruling the east and the west. That is obviously what we learn from the Quran too. So this is basically just an idea exactly of who Dhul Qarnain, what the meaning of Dhul Qarnain is. We need to keep in mind that Dhul Qarnain was not the name given by, in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are asking you regarding Dhul Qarnain. So it was the name that they had known. So it was known in their community, Jewish community, and others. In Banu Israel, it was known as this Dhul Qarnain. So they posed this question. It was not that Islam introduced this name, Dhul Qarnain. So obviously his name can be different. Now obviously, what does Quran mention? We need to understand this very clearly from day one. What does Quran mention about Dhul Qarnain? And then we will go into more detail about, is Alexander the Great, is he Dhul Qarnain? Or Cyrus, or who, the different names given, who is Dhul Qarnain? So let's understand what Quran says. This is all Quran says. He was a righteous and just king who reached the east and the west and conquered the countries in between and ruled there justly. All sorts of means had been provided to him by Allah Ta'ala in order to help him achieve his objectives. On the route of his conquest, he traveled in 3 directions: to the far west, to the far east, and then to the mountain range in the north. At the last mentioned place, he closed the pass in between 2 mountains by a wall cast in molten metal, which made it possible for people of the area to stay protected against the pillage of Ya'juj, Ma'juj. Now this is basically the summary of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran, very briefly, which we'll go into detail a little, we'll expand on that. Now the question, this answer that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given was sufficient for the Jewish community, and after that they did not question. They wanted to find out whether he is a true prophet or not. If he was a true prophet, then he would have the answer for this. So when this answer was given in the light of the Quran, this was sufficient. They did not ask any further question, which means this was sufficient Quran. This was sufficient. That is why we find in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not go into extreme details of any story. He only mentions the important part of it, which is sufficient, which is important. If there is a need for elaboration, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will go into it. And if there is no need, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will only suffice in what is necessary. Now, obviously, beyond this, what I just told you right now, there is a lot that is mentioned about Dhul Qarnain. So where does that come from? Well, all that comes from the Israeli riwayat and narrations and narratives. Now obviously Israeli narratives, meaning the narratives before Islam, what was in Old Testament, New Testament, and what people knew about it. So whatever we get is either based on Old Testament, New Testament, meaning Injil, and what Torah. Now obviously many things are facts which is in there, and many things are distorted. Secondly, we need to keep in mind, many other information that we get is based on history. It's not really based on facts. It's based on history. Now history is just documenting. It doesn't go through the scrutiny that hadith goes through. So this is something we need to keep in mind. So what I mentioned to you right now briefly is what is mentioned about Dhul Qarnain in the Quran. Now anything above that we look for and we dig out for, we will find from other narrations, historic narrations. They can be true, they cannot be true. One of the golden principles for Israeli riwayat is that if it does not contradict hadith and if it does not contradict Quran, we will accept it. Otherwise, we will not accept it. That is a principle for Israeli riwayat. I just want to make you understand one very important point, that we as Muslims really need to appreciate the religion of Islam. And one of the reasons why is that, you will never find the beauty of Islam or beauty of religion in any other religion. The beauty that we find in Islam, you will never find it in other religion. Because every single aspect of deen that has reached us, either it reached us through hadith or it reached us through Quran. Now, obviously, Quran, the narration of Quran is so mutawatir, and it's so. I mean, there is no way we can deny any ayat which we had received. We can never deny that because so many people had narrated those narrations. But let's go one step beyond, which is hadith. Just for it to be authentic, meaning that did it come from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to us? Every narrator was scrutinized. Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi alayhi made so much effort behind, and his conditions were so strict to scrutinize the fact that this came from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You know, today me and you open up hadith kitabs. We don't even appreciate this is hadith kitab. But the amount of effort people made. You know, we find people traveling from Makkah to Mukarramah, Medina Munawwara, all the way to where? Sham, Syria. Or coming from Syria to Medina Munawwara, just to confirm one hadith. Can you ever travel that much? Just to confirm a hadith that they had heard. You know, one sahabi had heard it from a tabi'i. You know who tabi'i is? Who saw sahabas. So he wanted to confirm that it was from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he comes all the way to Medina to confirm the hadith, and he goes back. My brothers, it's not that you buy a plane ticket and get onto a plane. You know, nowadays we have buses which are just like planes, but they never had that. The only transportation they had was camels and horses, and they traveled in that. So my brothers, all that we have today in form of sunnat, in form of wajib, fard, whatever we have, we really need to appreciate this, because this went through extreme scrutiny. Now I ask you, and I can even challenge you for this matter, that in any religion, you will never find their narratives compared to the narratives of hadith and Quran. You will never find that. In fact, if you look at the history of the Christianity, after how many centuries, all the narratives were being compiled. After centuries, after Isa alayhi salatu wasalam was lifted to the heavens. So directly there is no connection to Isa alayhi salatu wasalam at all. And you will never find that in other religion. It is only the beauty of Islam that for every single thing, doing siwak is sunnat. Subhanallah. It is sunnat. Where did you get this from? Which book is it in? Well, that book which it's in, they take the full responsibility that they narrate from so and so person, right to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is why, my brothers, we have to be so careful that if we are not sure whether this is hadith or not, if we are not sure whether this is sunnat or not, we're not supposed to be saying this is sunnat, lest that we are attributing a lie to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the narrators were so particular. You find Imam Shu'bah. This is a topic in hadith. We will talk about the topic sometime later. But Imam Shu'bah, they were so particular that for their criteria of accepting hadith was so strict for some people that they would reject the hadith simply because that person, he was eating on the horse or eating outside. And that was going against muruwat. So they had strict conditions. So my brothers, we need to appreciate the religion that we have been given. My brothers, for this matter, I always tell the brothers and encourage the brothers. My brothers, some ulama, they went out in hadith and they studied hadith in detail, where most of us did not. But whenever there is hadith, we should be part and parcel of it. Look how much sacrifice was put to it. And today we cannot even sit down and give 5 minutes, 10 minutes and understand the hadith. Subhanallah, we will be questioned for this on the Day of Judgment. So anyways, coming back to the point, now obviously we want to talk about the famous question. Once I spoke about Dhul Qarnain, just a little bit about it, and immediately some youngsters came to me and they asked me this question. Was Dhul Qarnain the Alexander the Great? That is the question that we normally ask. Because our youngsters, we all study who Alexander the Great was and what he did, what he conquered. So the famous question is, Alexander the Great, who was the king of Greece, who was the king of Macedonia and that area, was he the same person who's known to be Dhul Qarnain? And some mufassirin and some historians have mentioned that he was. But obviously the answer is no. But many times we get confused and we think that he is the Alexander the Great, the Alexandria in Egypt, the city which is named after him. He was not the person, who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala refers to in the Quran as Dhul Qarnain. But people normally say he was. So for this, Hafiz ibn Kathir rahmatullahi alayh, obviously this Alexander the Great, who was, his minister was who? Aristotle. I'm sure you must have studied, who Aristotle was, Aristotelis. They call him Aristotelis. Aristotle, his philosophy is widespread, and obviously people also take benefit from it. So Hafiz ibn Kathir rahmatullahi alayh mentions it very clearly. He says, فَأَمَّا ذُو الْقَرْنَيْنِ الثَّانِي, the second Alexander. Because the first one, they call him Cyrus, and some people call him Dhul Qarnain. Different names are given to him. So Imam Ibn Kathir rahmatullahi mentions, وَأَمَّا ذُو الْقَرْنَيْنِ الثَّانِي فَهُوَ إِسْكَنْدَرْ ibn Faylabis. And now he mentions the whole chain to who? Yafis. Who is Yafis? Who is Yafis? The son of Nuh alayhi salatu wassalam. He mentions the whole chain, and he mentions that he is not the Dhul Qarnain that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about. In fact, he makes it very, very clear that those people, this Alexander the Great, he came approximately 300 years. كان هذا قبل المسيح بنحو من 300 سنة. This Alexander the Great, he came about 300 years before Masih Isa alayhi salatu wassalam. And obviously his wazir was Aristotelis. وهو الذي قتل دارا ibn Dara. He's the one who killed Dara ibn Dara, one of the kings. وأذل ملوك الفرس, and the king of the Persian, he killed them, and he conquered many different places. وإنما نبهنا عليه. Ibn Kathir rahmatullahi alayhi, he highly emphasizes and he says, I am warning you, and I am mentioning it very clearly. وإنما نبهنا عليه. Ibn Kathir rahmatullahi alayhi says, لأن كثيرا من الناس يعتقد أنهما واحد. Everyone, a lot of people, they're in misconception, and they think Dhul Qarnain, he's the same person. Meaning Alexander the Great and the one that came before, they're both the same person, but they're not the same person. And then he mentions, وَأَنَّ الْمَذْكُورُ فِي الْقُرْآنِ. The one who's mentioned in the Quran, the Dhul Qarnain who's mentioned in the Quran, هُوَ الَّذِي كَانَ وَزِيرُ. He mentions Alexander the Great. Obviously, Aristotle was his wazir. But the one that is mentioned in the Quran, فَإِنَّ الْأَوَّلِ كَانَ عَبْدًا مُؤْمِنًا. The first one who came before this Alexander the Great, he was a pious believer. كَانَ عَبْدًا مُؤْمِنًا صَالِحًا وَمَلِكًا عَادِلًا. He was a just ruler. وَكَانَ وَزِيرُهُ الْخِضْرِ. And his wazir and his minister was who? Khidr. From this we learn, last week you talked about Khidr alayhi salatu wasalam. If Ibn Kathir rahmatullahi alayhi is mentioning about Khidr, that means it shows that if he was alive at the time of Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, imagine being at the time of Dhul Qarnain. وَكَانَ نَبِيًّا عَلَى مَا قَرَّرْنَاهُ قَبْلَ هَذَا. Ibn Kathir rahmatullahi alayhi, obviously his tafsir and his bidayah wa nihaya is quite accepted in people. Ibn Kathir rahmatullahi alayhi mentions he was also a prophet, as we had mentioned in the previous chapters. So from this we learn, and the second Alexander the Great, who is known to be Alexander the Great, فَكَانَ مُشْرِكًا وَكَانَ وَزِيرُهُ. Obviously he was a mushrik, he was an idol worshipper, and his wazir, Aristotle, he was a philosopher. So obviously there's a big difference between the two, and they're not the same. So Ibn Kathir rahmatullahi makes it clear, the famous Alexander the Great that we talk about, that we learn about in the kitab or in our school, is not the one which is mentioned in the Quran. Rather, this person came way before that. He came way before that, and obviously he was a Nabi, he was a prophet. So according to the opinion of Ibn Kathir rahmatullahi, he was a pious person, and he was also definitely he was a prophet. So this is one thing that we need to make it clear. We need to be clear of. The second thing is, if someone wants to study the depth of Dhul Qarnain, I will recommend one kitab. It's a very nice kitab, a very good job done in English language with pictures in it. There is a very famous kitab called Qasasul Nabiyyin. One is Qasasul Anbiya of Imam Ibn Kathir rahmatullahi alayh. There is another kitab, Qasasul Nabiyyin. Now, this kitab here, written by Maulana Hifdhur Rahman Sihalwi rahmatullahi alayh, Sheikh Hifdhur Rahman Sihalwi. Now this is a beautiful kitab. He's done a beautiful research on all the prophets and all the historic perspective in Quran. And he has mentioned it with pictures. So if you get this kitab, it's in 2 volumes. There's much details in this kitab here. And this kitab really mentions all the things that we would want to know and all the authentic things in it. It's quite a reliable kitab. He actually mentions about Dhul Qarnain. And he also, after doing a thorough research, he says Alexander the Great can never be Dhul Qarnain, which is being referred to in the Quran. And he mentions, one of the reasons for this, he mentions, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, فَإِذَا جَاءَ in Surah Banu Israel, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعْدُ أُولَاهُمَا بَعَثْنَا عَلَيْكُمْ عِبَادًا لَنَا أُولِي بَأْسٍ شَدِيدٍ فَجَاسُوا خِلَالَ الدِّيَارِ وَكَانَ وَعْدًا مَفْعُولًا ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that in Banu Israel, in Palestine, in that area, they will be tormented twice. So فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعْدُ أُولَاهُمَا, when the first torment, when the first punishment comes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send upon them a nation, a group of people, a powerful king who will destroy every single thing. So فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعْدُ أُولَاهُمَا بَعَثْنَا عَلَيْكُمْ عِبَادًا لَنَا أُولِي بَأْسٍ شَدِيدٍ فَجَاسُوا خِلَالَ الدِّيَارِ وَكَانَ وَعْدًا مَفْعُولًا. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send powerful people and they will destroy everything. So Maulana Hifdul Rahmani mentions that Bukht al-Nasr, he came and he destroyed every single thing. People lost their iman for many years. Baytul Maqdis, that was completely, it was vacant. No one is frequenting that place, etc. And then ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَا لَكُمُ الْكَرَّةَ عَلَيْهِمْ. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent a person. And who was that person? That was Dhul Qarnain, who came, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through Dhul Qarnain, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inhibited that place, and that place once again it was frequented by the believers, etc. That is why it seems that the Jewish community in particular, they gave extra respect, because he was the one, Dhul Qarnain was the one who restored peace after devastation. And that is why it seems like that Dhul Qarnain, the Jewish community, they were giving special respect to him and they wanted to know about him. And if Prophet ﷺ was a prophet, he would definitely know about him. Now, speaking about, let's go through the story that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran. وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنْ ذِي الْقَرْنَيْنِ. They will be asking you, literal translation, inshallah we'll just finish it with translation here. They will ask you regarding Dhul Qarnain. قُلْ سَأَتْلُوا عَلَيْكُم مِّنْهُ ذِكْرًا. I shall recite to you something of his story. Meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, I'm not going to give you the full details of it, just a little bit about it, what is necessary for you to know. Inna makkanna lahu. This individual here, Dhul Qarnain, Inna makkanna lahu fil ardi wa ataynahu min kulli shay'in sababa. We established him in the earth and we gave him the means of everything. We gave him everything that he needed. And all kinds of means were provided. Knowledge, physical talent, whatever he needed, every single thing. For him to achieve his objectives, whatever he needed to conquer the places, every single thing was given, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, Inna makkanna lahu fil ard wa ataynahu min kulli shay'in sababa. Every resources that he needed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had provided him with. And now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala further mentions, فَأَتْبَعَ سَبَبًا. So he followed the way, and he went. He went in one direction. He went to the Maghrib, to the west, and then he went to the east, and then he went to the north. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, حَتَّى إِذَا بَلَغَ مَغْرِبَ الشَّمْسِ. So he went towards the Maghrib, towards the west, until when he reached, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, إِذَا بَلَغَ مَغْرِبَ الشَّمْسِ وَجَدَهَا تَغْرُبُ فِي عَيْنٍ حَمِئَةٍ وَوَجَدَ عِنْدَهَا قَوْمًا. So until when he reached the setting place of the sun, he found it setting in a spring of black, muddy, or hot water. وَجَدَهَا. He found the sun setting. This is very important because there's a question coming up here. So he went to the place. So he kept on going, kept on conquering places after places till he came to the most west part of the world. And when he came to that part, he noticed that the sun is descending and the sun is coming down. Now obviously the words of the Quran, people, especially the people that don't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they try raising objection here. So the literal translation is وَجَدَهَا تَغْرُبُ فِي عَيْنٍ حَمِئَةٍ. As if the sun was setting. Where was it setting? In a murky water, in a muddy water. That's where the sun was setting. Now, or hami'atin also means hot water. So it was setting in that place. Now over here, first let's understand this. Or let's understand the question first. The people yesterday I was just trying to understand, and I was doing some research on this here, and subhanAllah, many websites. That is why I caution you that if you don't understand the real resources and sources of knowledge, you will be confused. There are many websites in Answering Islam and many Awakening of Islam and many websites, and you'll be fooled. You'll be thinking that they're Islamic websites, but they're not. And they're giving negative information, and they will obviously cause a lot of misconception in your mind, and they will corrupt your mind. So one of the questions that was put in there, that Quran and many Muslims, they hide this information. Look how they're, na'udhu billah, they say, meaning, they're saying about Quran, that the Quran, they are hiding the truth about Quran. Quran, made a blatant mistake, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made a blatant mistake in Quran. I was just reading it yesterday. And in there they were saying, and the reason behind this, I was thinking, wow, what is this? What is he talking about? Let me understand this. And then they were saying, just because they had, read the translation of the Quran, the sun is setting in a murky water. So they were saying that back in the days, at the time of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because people didn't have knowledge of the world, they used to believe that the sun used to set in the earth. So, and also, beyond that, people used to think. So that is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, and the Quran makes a blatant mistake, na'udhu billah. Now, could you ever understand it like that? I don't know how you would understand it and how you would answer it. Obviously, this is not a mistake at all. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pure. Subhana Rabbiyal Azim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is free from any kind of faults. So, what is the real meaning of this here? When you go, I don't know if you go camping or not. If you go to, where the horizon, where there is no trees, no nothing like that. When you go and you want to look at a sunset. Have you ever seen a sun setting? SubhanAllah, it looks very, very nice. So when you go there, it's just a water body and there's nothing else. What does it look like? It seems like the sun is going down into the water. So your eyes will tell you that the sun has gone into the water. But do you think the sun has gone into the water? No. But that is what it looks like. But that is not the case. So likewise, Dhul Qarnain, the place that he went to, obviously that place, the water was maybe not so clean. It was muddy, murky. And in that area, when the sun was going down, obviously there was no obstruction. Your view cannot be obscured. It was completely clear. So now when the sun was going down, and obviously there is nothing blocking you, it seems like the sun has gone down into the water. But that is not the case. Absolutely. But you will say, wow, I just saw the sun going down. Where did it go down? Into the water. Well, it didn't go into the water, but it seems like it went to the water. But obviously, people here, if they don't understand the message properly, they try distorting it and give misunderstanding. So the real thing is that obviously it is mentioned in this way here, as the sun went down. And obviously when it goes below the horizon, for us it seems like as if it went down into the water, but it's not gone into the water, it's below the horizon. Nevertheless, we need to understand this question here. People objected in different ways. Further, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, قَالَ أَمَّا مَنْ ظَلَمَ. So when he went to the extreme west, what happened? He meant a group of people there. So he meant two kinds of people. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about that in the Quran. So when he went there, قَالَ أَمَّا مَنْ ظَلَمَ فَسَوْفَ نُعَذِّبُهُ ثُمَّ يُرَدُّ إِلَىٰ رَبِّهِ فَيُعَذِّبُهُ عَذَابًا نُكْرًا. So when he found a group of people there, he said that as far as the group of people who don't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, فَسَوْفَ نُعَذِّبُهُ, they will be taken to task. They will be tormented. Those who do not believe in the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ثُمَّ يُرَدُّ إِلَىٰ رَبِّهِ, and they will be returned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, فَيُعَذِّبُهُ, so they will be tormented in this world and they will be tormented hereafter. وَأَمَّا مَنْ آمَنَ, as far as those people who bring faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَأَمَّا مَنْ آمَنَ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا, those who bring faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, فَلَهُ جَزَاءً الْحُسْنَى, they will get a beautiful recompense in this world, and وَسَنَقُولُ لَهُ مِنْ أَمْرِنَا يُسْرًا, and we will be very compassionate and we will make the matter easy for them. We will speak to them in a very easy tone. Now this is the translation of the Quran. So basically we learn that when he went to the West, he found two types of people. Some people, they believed in Allah, and some people, they rejected the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. From this we also learn that he was a prophet. And one of his message was not just Obviously, his mission was not just to conquer the place, but rather his message was to his mission was to convey the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and do tabligh. Thereafter, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, ثُمَّ أَتْبَعَ سَبَبًا, and then he went in another direction. ثُمَّ أَتْبَعَ سَبَبًا, now he followed another way. So he went to the west, now he is going towards the east. When he goes towards the east, it is mentioned, حتى بلغ مطلع الشمس وجدها تطلع على قوم لم نجعل له من دونها سترا كذلك. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions until when he came to the rising place of the sun. Where is the rising place of the sun? East. He found it rising on a people for whom we, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, had provided no shelter against the sun. So these were such group of people, the commentators, they mentioned that there were those people who were basically, they barely had any clothes to even cover themselves. So they were completely exposed to sun. And they used to ride, on the animals like that. So they basically didn't have any protection from sun, and this is how they were living. And that's how they were. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about them. In here, if you look at it, in first ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives more detail of two types of people. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not mention here. There could be two types of people, or there could have been just one type of people who accepted the message of Dhul Qarnain. So he went to the east, and he conquered up to the east, and to wherever he can go. And then after that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, ثُمَّ أَتْبَعَ سَبَبًا, then he followed another way, another path. So this time, where is he going? Where is he going? He's gone to the east, he's gone to the west, he's gone to the east. Now where is he going? He's going to the north. Good. So now, حَتَّى إِذَا بَلَغَ بَيْنَ السَّدَّيْنِ. Saddain in Arabic language, sadda yasuddu means to block, to stop. In Arabic language means to stop. Now saddain, in Arabic language over here, saddain is being referred to what? Mountain. What does mountain do? When you have two big massive mountains, what is it going to do? It's going to stop you. It's difficult for you. It's extremely difficult for you to cross over a mountain. So, bayna saddaini. So when he reached the two mountains, he found, what did he find there? وَجَدَ مِن دُونِهِمَا قَوْمًا. He found a group of people. لَا يَكَادُونَ يَفْقَهُونَ قَوْلًا. They could barely understand any message. They can barely speak, and they can barely understand your language. So he found a group of people there when he went there. So he conquered all the way. Now this is extreme north he went. When he went there, what happened? A group of people, they came, قَالُوا يَا ذَا الْقَرْنَيْنِ. They complained to Dhul Qarnain, and they said, "O Dhul Qarnain, we have a request for you, if you can help us, because we're in such a place that there's a group of people who always bother us, who always attack us, and who always make our life very difficult." So he says, they said, "Ya Dhul Qarnain, inna ya'juj wa ma'juj mufsiduna fil ardi fahal naj'alu laka kharajan ala an taj'ala baynana wa baynahum sadda." O Dhul Qarnain, is it possible for you? Inna ya'juj wa ma'juj. Ya'juj and ma'juj are doing great mischief in this land here, in this area here. They cause lots of problem for us. Shall we then pay you a tribute in order that you might erect a barrier between us and them? So they're saying that, "Oh, Dhul Qarnain, we will give you some money. Whatever we can help you out, we will give you, we'll compensate you for your work and your effort, but can you do us a favor? And what is a favor? We want you to put up a barrier so that they're not able to cross the wall over and harm us and put us into difficulty and hardship. Are you able to do this?" So this was a request. Obviously, he's a prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Dhul Qarnain. He's a pious person. So he immediately responds to them, to the group of people, and he says, قَالَ مَا مَكَّنِّي فِيهِ رَبِّي خَيْرٌ فَأَعِينُونِي بِقُوَّةٍ اجْعَلْ بَيْنَكُمْ وَبَيْنَهُ رَدْمًا آتُونِي زُبْرَ الْحَدِيدِ. So he mentions, the first thing he mentions, مَا مَكَّنِّي فِيهِ, whatever my Lord has given me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has established me with, خَيْرٌ, that is good enough for me. When a powerful person, when he is being requested, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given him so much, he should not be taking from someone. If Allah has made you independent, why are you going after someone? Allah has given you so much. Help the person. You don't need to charge the person if you have Allah has given you so much. So here, he said, whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me is sufficient. I don't need to take any wages, any compensation from you. But there is one thing that I would need. I need some physical help from you. So فَأَعِينُونِي بِقُوَّةٍ. So help me with great strength. أَجْعَلْ بَيْنَكُمْ وَبَيْنَهُمْ رَدْمًا. Inshallah, what we will do, we will make a barrier in between. So now, what happens? Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then He asks, so they all assisted Dhul Qarnain, and He says, give me a piece blocks, آتوني زبر الحديد. Zubr al-hadid means, pieces, pieces, big pieces, big chunks of iron. Zubr al-hadid, hadid means iron. So bring those big chunks, big plates. Zubr also means plates, so big plates of iron. Bring that for me. آتوني زبر الحديد حتى إذا ساوى. And when he had filled up, so what he's going to do is he's going to put up those big iron plates in between the mountain. So the two mountains are already there. In between the gap, what is he doing? He's putting up big, massive iron plates. حتى إذا ساوى بين الصدفين قال انفخوا. And then after this, what he's saying? And he puts this, قال انفخوا, he says blow. Till when he had made it red as a fire. So obviously when you blow it, have you seen the iron? When you heat it up, it becomes red like a fire. After that, what did he say? He said, bring me molten copper to pour over it. So he put plates of iron wall, and then after that, what happened was copper, melted copper was put over it. So this made it firm. So you have two big massive mountains. In between that, you have an iron wall. We're not even talking about cemented wall. We're talking about iron wall, which is also, filled with what? Melted copper. So just imagine how strong this wall would be. So, Dhul Qarnain, obviously Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given him all kinds of means that was required. And as a result of that, he was able to put this up and erect this piece here. So then he says, فَمَسْطَاعُوا. After putting this up, فَمَسْطَاعُوا أَن يَظْهَرُوهُ وَمَسْتَطَاعُوا لَهُ نَقَبًا. Insha'Allah, with the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they were made powerless. فَمَسْطَاعُوا. They will not be able to overpower this and cross over this wall here. And وَمَسْتَطَاعُوا لَهُ نَقَبًا. And they will not be able to make a hole in it. Who will not be able to make a hole in it? Ya'juj and Ma'juj. They will not be able to cross over it. Neither will they be able to make any hole in it, because how powerful this thing was. But at the same time, he also, Dhul Qarnain, he also made it very clear, and he said, قَالَ هَذَا رَحْمَةٌ مِّن رَبِّي. We learn from this. When you do something like this, قَالَ هَذَا رَحْمَةٌ مِّن رَبِّي. At the end, what is he saying? Dhul Qarnain is saying that whatever I did here, this was from the mercy of my Lord. This is my Lord's mercy. Immediately, say any powerful person, we find Numrud, we find Fir'aun, when they saw the power that Allah had given them, they attributed to themselves. But if you are the servant of Allah, then you will attribute all your power, and whatever Allah has given you, you will attribute to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So my brothers, we learn any kind of power. Sometimes we're playing a game and we win the game. هَذَا مِنْ فَضْلِ رَبِّي. This is the mercy of my Lord. This is the grace of my Lord. Any good thing that comes, we attribute that to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Any power to our limit, sometimes you win a game, sometimes you win a test, sometimes you pass your exams, whatever it may be. Immediately what you do, you turn to Allah and you attribute it to Allah. This is only from Allah, otherwise it could have never been possible. هَذَا رَحْمَةٌ مِّن رَبِّي. And then Dhul Qarnain, also cautioned, the community and said, فَإِذَا جَاءَ وَعْدُ رَبِّي. When the promise of my Lord comes, جَعَلَهُ دَكَّاءَ. Allah will make that powerful mountain and that iron wall into pieces. Into pieces. دَكَّاءَ وَكَانَ وَعْدُ رَبِّي حَقًّا. And my Lord's promise is absolutely true. There is no shadow of doubt in it. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, وَتَرَكْنَا بَعْضَهُمْ يَوْمَئِذٍ يَمُوجُ فِي بَعْضٍ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we shall leave them to surge like waves on one another. Obviously, we will talk about Ya'juj, Ma'juj a little bit, and then we will conclude. So, when they will disperse on the land of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there will be so many, and they will basically, there will be like waves of water, plunging into one another. So, يَمُوجُ فِي بَعْضٍ وَنُفِخَ فِي الصُّورِ. And in the surah, the trumpet will be blown, and it will be the day of judgment. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks of the day of judgment. Now the question is, who is Ya'juj, Ma'juj? Now obviously this is a topic on its own, who Ya'juj and Ma'juj is. There is so much that is said in the hadith of Ya'juj and Ma'juj. Now this is a very important discussion. Now briefly mentioning, in one very lengthy hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam speaks about Ya'juj and Ma'juj. So he mentions that obviously when the major signs of Qiyamah, when they are prevalent, and when they start manifesting, then we will see Dajjal coming. Before that, Mahdi will come. Mahdi alayhi salam will become. You know, a lot of people say Imam Mahdi. Now, obviously, the Shias, they believe that he is the 4th Imam, 12th Imam who will emerge. So that is why, you know, the name Imam is given. But according to Hadith perspective, there is no such thing as Imam. It is just Mahdi, or his name will be Muhammad. So Mahdi, what does Mahdi mean? A guided person. So he will come. And after that, obviously, there will be good time and bad time in his days. After that, Dajjal will emerge. And Dajjal, when he emerges, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned so much details about him. So many details were mentioned about Dajjal. And when he comes, the good things, the bad things, everything was mentioned. Actually, there was no good things. It was some things that, you know, the bad things of Dajjal and the fitness that he will be coming with, that will be mentioned, that he mentioned. And after that, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned that Isa ala nabina alayhi salatu wasalam will descend from the heavens. And when he comes down, obviously, Babul Lud, that is a place where he will finish up Dajjal. And even today's time, if you ask the Palestine Jamaat and you ask other people, they will tell you that even today's time, that community area is still called Babul Lud. And that is the same place, you know, in the Jama Mosque in Damascus, where he will be descending. And that is the same place where Dajjal will be killed, and by who? Isa ala nabiyina alayhi salatu wasalam and his followers. And then the time will come of Ya'juj Ma'juj. And then the Ya'juj Ma'juj will come. So I'm basically summarizing a very lengthy hadith because the time is already up here. So in that hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send forth Ya'juj and Ma'juj, this group of people. Now there will be so many that in the ratio 1 to 10, for every one person there will be 9 Ya'juj and Ma'juj. So there will be so many. In fact, in one hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned that, you know, out of every 100, one will go to Jannah. Sahaba radiallahu majma'in were so scared. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he consoled them by saying that for every 10, for every one person, there will be 9 Ya'juj and Ma'juj. So there will be abundance of Ya'juj and Ma'juj. They will disperse and they will drink up all the water on earth, you know, in that area, on the river, whatever water they see, they will drink that water up. And they will conquer the area, the land. Isa ala nabiyina alayhi salatu wasalam, he will take his followers and go. Obviously, I'm not going into the details of signs of Qiyamah, but just briefly mentioning Isa ala nabiyina alayhi salatu wasalam, he will ascend to the mountain and take protection there from these people here, and he will go onto the peak of the mountain with his followers, and he will stay there for about, quite a few years. And obviously, time will become so difficult. It is said that just to get the head of the cow, they will give hundreds of dinar, and still it will not be possible for them to get that. So the difficult times will also come upon Isa alayhi salatu wasalam and his followers. And then Allah subhanahu, so these Ya'juj and Ma'juj, they will disperse all over. And then once they have dispersed all over, and now a thought will come that we have conquered the whole world, we want to conquer the heavens. So they will shoot an arrow, and when they shoot an arrow, that arrow will come back with blood, stained with blood. So now they were thinking, now Allah will just put this, they're foolish people, Allah will just put this thought into their mind, that look, this arrow you shot in the air, and it came back down with blood stained, that means you have already conquered the people in the heavens. So when they do this, and they will stay in the world as much as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants them to stay, and then after that, what will happen is that Isa alayhi salatu wasalam will make dua, so that Allah ta'ala can remove these people here. And then, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept the dua of Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, and a wind will come, and as a result of that, they will all die. And then when Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, when he comes down, you will only find dead carcasses. Then Isa alayhi salatu wasalam will make dua again, will Allah remove these people? So then these people will be removed, all the dead carcasses, all the carcasses will be removed, meaning water will come down, and it will wash away all the body. And again, a most peaceful time that a person can think about will be given to Isa and his followers. And obviously after that, Isa will die, and he will be buried next to where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is. And after that, obviously the land will be full of only ignorant and foolish people. people committing the most worst evil that we can never even think of. They will be committing that. The world will be filled with that. No believers will be there, and the Qiyamah will take place. So this is just briefly mentioning about Ya'juj and Ma'juj. There's so much details about it. I just want to conclude today's topic here is that, again, my brothers, beloved youngsters, what we learn, this is not just a story. What we need to learn from this, whatever truth we find, obviously it's mentioned in the Quran. Anything beyond that, a lot of people, they mention about Ya'juj and Ma'juj, and they say that they're licking the wall for many, many years, and the wall gets very thin. And after that, they forget to say inshallah. So the next day when so what they do basically, I heard this, obviously we talk about this when I was young, but we also heard about Ya'juj and Ma'juj, that they lick the wall so much, and then after that, when it gets so thin, they say that we will finish this wall off and knock the wall off tomorrow, and when they come back, it's back to normal again. And because they forget to say inshallah. We really don't find this, or at least me, I did not come across. In fact, I found something against it. We don't really find this, that there's something like that they lick the wall and they forget to say inshallah. Whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will break that wall and it will become into pieces, and they will disperse on the land of this, on this land here, on the land of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Otherwise, many things that we hear, we need to clarify that. If it is authenticated from Quran and Hadith, we accept it. Anything beyond that, we don't accept it. Again, we learn these four major stories that we talked about. Inshallah, next week we will talk about, many brothers, many youngsters that were telling me, and they had requested that we talk about the Sahabas. There are very important things that we need to talk about Sahabas, and so I think through Facebook or something like that, the poster was supposed to be made, but it's not available today. But inshallah, next time, the topic will be introduction to the Sahaba. It will be different from what it was in Path to Piety. And inshallah, we will have some specific topics on Sahaba radiallahu majma'een. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us understanding. Just before we conclude, I have one announcement. And the announcement is, inshallah, next week, Sheikh Abdul Hamid, a very prominent scholar from South Africa, he's a principal of Azadville, he will be coming. So when he comes, we have requested the host to have a special program. I don't know if you remember, we had a Sahih al-Bukhari program in this 3 years ago, we had a special program. And it was a very wonderful program. We all took maximum benefit. In fact, we didn't have enough space in the back area, so we had the program after Dhuhr in the main area, and it was a whole day program. So this time we will not have a whole day program. It will be just a half day program, or just for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, from 10 to 1 o'clock. Because he has 4 programs on the same day. So all the brothers that come here, obviously this is for our community. He's a great scholar, and I personally know him. And alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has really blessed him. He's an elderly person. So we have requested that this year, inshallah, we want him to teach us Arba'een of Imam Nawawi rahmatullahi alayh. So it will be a fantastic workshop, a very good learning experience for us. And look, we can pass our time, weddings and watching movies and whatnot. But how wonderful it is that if we are able to stay in the company of the pious people and take benefit from their experience and learn good knowledge from them. So inshallah, I recommend every one of you sitting here and pass this message to others, because this program is for our community. So this program will be taking place on 17th of June on Sunday, and this program will start from 10 to 1 inshallah. Once again, the flyer should be somewhere here, Arba'een program. I want you to register, because some of the organizers, I have told them that the brothers that will be helping out, if they can have some refreshment. So to prepare for the refreshment and for the booklet, so we can walk through the hadith. So for that, obviously, if you have some kind of registration, no money, nothing like that. SubhanAllah, everything is being offered free here. And because of that, we normally don't have value when things are so free. Nevertheless, it will be free. But the only thing, the only effort you need to make is, I don't know the website, I don't know the email address, but just put your email that you will be attending, so that inshallah you will be able to get a booklet, and at the very same time, it will be easy for the brothers to organize some refreshment. So again, put this down in your schedule. This program will take place when? Next Sunday, not in 2 days, next Sunday, the 17th of June, and this program will be, you're just going to have to wake up earlier. I'm sure people are used to waking up 12 o'clock on Sunday morning, but wake up early. Inshallah, Allah Ta'ala will make it easy for everyone. And this program is also for the sisters. Many sisters will be coming. So the sisters can come also, and the brothers can come also, and take benefit from this program, and from a great scholar who is coming. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for every one of us. Let's make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, this Sunday. Okay, there's a program taking place this Sunday. There's a special youth program taking place this Sunday in respect to Jamaat, right? For the Jamaat brothers, there will be a special program taking place for all the youth. So if you have, please participate. Not if you have time, we should take time out and participate in the program. Let's make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allahumma lakal hamdu kullu wa lakal shukru kullu wa ilayki rujuna min kullu.